Amanastwana me dukkha ragadvesha bhayadayah aprano hyamana shubhra ityadi shruti shasana. Amanastwana me dukkha ragadvesha bhayadayah aprano hyamana shubhra ityadi shruti shasana. Not having the mind, I have no desire. Amanastva, I have no desire, no sorrow, hatred, no fear, etc. Indeed, it is the commandment of the scriptures. It's the declaration of the scriptures that Atman has no prana, mind, etc. It is Shubhra, Shubhram. It is pure. It is immaculate. Shruti Shasanat. The Shruti Shasanat means it is the declarations, it's the commandments of the Shastras, or the scriptures. Look at the humility of the Guru here. He doesn't arrogate it to himself. He doesn't attribute that knowing to himself. He says, this is how the Shastras have said. This is how the declarations of the Upanishads, this is how the truth has been said for a very long time. And I'm just passing it on to you. So the great Guru Adi Shankaracharya, a picture of humility. So he's just mentioning what has been said with no arrogance at all. Mana. Mana is the mind. Mana is no mind. Please don't say never mind. Huh? It is not never mind. It says no mind. No mind means what is the implication of no mind means? No mind is no mind, sir. What are you talking? There's no hidden meaning in that. Sir, what you must understand, the state of perfection or realization is also said as amana. Amani bhava. Bhava is a state or a feeling of state of no mind, mindlessness. They say mindlessness is perfection. So mindlessness is perfection. How do you understand? You got to understand in the sense that the world is a projection of your mind. What gives solidarity to the world, what creates the world, what binds us to the world is our own mind. The world is out there. Just to give an example, I used to give, I don't know, I've not said this now for a while. You know, there was an apartment in Malaysia. We used to live there for maybe close to 6-7 years, if not more. I don't remember how long we lived there. 5-6 years we lived. It was a road leading up to that apartment was called Panorama. So you had a panoramic view. It was a beautiful little hillock where you could drive up. And when we moved in, there was not much development around. And suddenly, later, there was so much development happening around that area. And one of that shops, the last turning, which before it entered into our clubhouse or the gatehouse, there was a pub called Sid's Pub. And I used to drive up and down every day. I don't know how many times we'll go up and down, go to the center, come back, drop my daughter, come back, go for a walk, come back, whatever, number of times in and out. But not a single day I stopped to find out what's the offering in the menu. What all they offer? What is the price of this or that? That world didn't exist for me. Yet I would drive past it. There were so many worlds that existed in that land, which I not knew, nor was I purview to, nor I was aware of what was happening. So what I'm trying to say is the world, the solidarity of the world is not because the world exists there, it's because it exists or not exists in your mind. What is within me is that which creates the world, gives a reality to the world. So the world per se has no pith or substance. Nothing in the world has any pith or substance, has any value to it. Nothing. Exactly like the feeling. Very sorry to keep falling back at it, but the feeling when you visit a crematorium and come back, what's the feeling you have? They have a feeling of it's an analogy. They draw parallel to a feeling that lingers, not for long, sadly so, not for long, but it does linger. That feeling is known as smashana vairagyam. There is a certain amount of dispassion you have to things, to life, to people, to everything, that you have a feeling of dispassion. There is no kamaha, there is no krodhaha, there is no passion. All that almost doesn't exist. Why? The sheer emotion, the sheer experience rubs onto you, where you sort of are stimulated to that feeling of the hollowness, of the worthlessness of the worldly pursuits. There's nothing out there that's worth it, because when you and I go, nothing is we're going to take with us. Nothing. End of the day, we are just nothing but elements. No sooner that a ball of elements is given to us, isn't it? Nothing but dead matter, dead earth. So there is this feeling of vairagya that comes in. But why do I call it smashana vairagya? Is because it only those moments, temporary moments, but thereafter you come back, all your kama, all your attachments, all your anxieties, all your worries, all your mental complications, the mental modifications, all come back and haunt you. So therefore, what we are trying to conclude, the world is either real or unreal, not out in the world, it's in the mind. So it is your mind that creates the reality to the world. It is the mind that creates a non-reality to it. You may say, sir, Sid's Pub, you still remember the name. Now, the fact that I've been reading that name so long is remembering. It's not that it's a reality for me, please. It's only reality in this class. Beyond that, it's not a reality for me. So when he says no mind, it also means all the modification. Now, what he just mentions a few. I have no desire, because desire, mind is the warehouse of desires. And it will be a good exercise for you to quantify your desires. Badriji, I'll give you how much time you need. A couple of days to quantify your desires. You think couple of days is sufficient? If you think more, maybe a couple of days more. I know we'll all Indians bargain. I'll give you a little couple of days more. 4 days enough?
I think it's enough. I think a day is enough.
Oh my God. You seem to be having a Western exposure. You are very upright. You don't want to bargain at all. Okay, 1 day is enough for you to quantify your desires.
Yes.
What is that, sir? How do you say so?
Because I don't think I need more than that to quantify it.
You mean to say you are so clear that you only have that few desires?
Yes.
Oh my God, you are at a very high spiritual state then. I chose the wrong person to answer my question then. Wrong choice.
No, I don't think anybody here should need more than a day to quantify desires. No, it's not me. You asked me, so I'm responding. But I don't think anybody.
No. I was expecting a complete total answer, so you floored me. So I don't know how to react. Is it possible to quantify your desires, Gayatri Ma?
Time being, we may quantify, Guruji, but it keeps on updating and deletion and keeps on happening it.
So it keeps, so it is dot. It's not one dot.
No.
I don't know. Is it that easy to quantify your desires? I don't know.
Brothers, at present, what is there in our mind, we may write, but tomorrow it may be another thing may add up to it. Like that, it keeps on happening.
Yeah, it's a continuous. It can't. In the sense, how would you know that you have no desire for something? That's a million-pound question. I do not know. How do you know? Like I said, I am very sure I have no desires for alcohol because you make me and sit in a pub also, I'll not drink. I know for sure.
So we can only say with available, so far what we have been faced with the, objects, we can say available, whether we have the desire or not. What has not been, we have not, like what we have not come across the objects, we cannot say. That may be a future one.
Yeah, if you have not, see, as we understand the concept, I don't want to probe into the concept. As we all understand the concept, it is the environment that actually triggers, if at all there is a latent desire or a vasana within. It is the stimuli. Swami Ramatirtha says, it is like a snake which is cold stricken. Badriji, you know what's a cold stricken snake? Badriji?
Sorry?
You follow the term cold stricken snake?
Cold stricken snake. No, I'm afraid, no, I don't understand that. No.
Okay. Swami Ramatirtha talks of these snakes in the Himalayan valleys, in the mountains, because of the extreme temperature, at times these snakes almost get frozen. It's like you put a snake in a freezer, -20, -30, 40 degrees minus, they are frozen literally. And they are supposed to be in a state of, Rajima, what is that word?
I think it is hibernation, Guruji.
Hibernation.
No, not hibernation. Is they opt for hibernation. It is that they get frozen in the sheer extreme temperatures. You may call it a sort of hibernation, but hibernation is something which is something which these animals seek, isn't it? They slip into, they go deep into they burrow a hole, or they find themselves a world to escape the extreme weathers, isn't it? Let's call it hibernation. I don't know what is the right term for that, but this he calls a term, they're literally dead, lifeless. So kids go and, in fact, you can play with them, you can do whatever you want because they are just lifeless. But the moment the first rays of sunlight and the body starts warming up, the very same cold stricken snake starts with its hoods up, starts hissing. So, Badriji, you have to unmute yourself.
I thought the word should be dormant then. It's like their lifelessness is, something which comes out it ceases when they come out of their dormancy. So they are dormant when they appear lifeless.
Correct. So, I'm drawing a parallel to the vasanas within could be in a cold stricken state. They could be in a cold storage because it has no exposure to the world out there. There's a possibility. I'm only asking a question mark.
Yeah.
But if you ask me, am I able to quantify my desires? I do not know. I don't think so. I'll be able to quantify it nor qualify it.
At a point in
Because
time,
it is not what just comes to your surface of attention now. It's the deep rooted impressions or vasanas that are there. We need to be aware of all of that. That's difficult. Sorry, you're saying something, Ji?
at a point in time, given one's experiences and therefore exposure to the world outside, the desires essentially are centered on the world outside. Okay. And maybe some mental desires. Okay. And so given your exposure to the world outside and your own reflections, at a given point of time, one might be able to list what are the things one yearns for. Because all of us are exposed to many things which we don't desire at any point in time. You know, like in your case, you gave an example of the pub. Most of us have similar things that we are exposed to, but yet don't desire. Okay. So, but at the same time, I agree that if your experiences go beyond what you've already experienced, then new desires might arise. As Gayatri Ma said, this list is a dynamic list. It can be true only at a point in time. Yeah.
Yeah, but that is incomplete list, no? It can't be a dynamic list. It has to be a static list. It can't be a dynamic list, you know. So here, dynamism is not right. It has to be a static list. So mind is the warehouse of desires, and from these desires arise the various emotions. I'm mentioning because he mentions grief. When does one experience grief? Grief is when you have lost your object of desire. And the grief is measured with the degree of your attachment. The greater the attachment, the greater the grief. Hatred also is a modification of desire when a desire is not met. Grief is you have lost your object of desire. It means you have fulfilled it and you have lost it. That is, desire is fulfilled, but it is taken away from you. There is grief because of attachment. Hatred is when a desire is not met, you get anger. Fear also, Vaidyanathanji, fear is a modification of desire.
I beg your pardon. What is the question?
The question is, he says, fear also is a modification of desire. It arises from desire. Can you draw a connect between fear arising from desire?
The fear of not achieving your desire itself, you know, that causes a stress in you. You want something and you're not sure you're going to get it. And that anxiety leads to fear. I want to go back to what you are describing about that snake. The word for that is suspended animation.
Wow. You know, it's a technical word.
Where the thing is, you know, almost like in samadhi, the biological functions are slowed down to such a low level, it doesn't require energy. It can be frozen, but it can recover back whenever the temperature is raised. That was one. When talking about desires, I wanted to also add that as we go through life, you know, as we are younger, we have many desires. As a child, you have a desire for a top or a kite or a toy. As we get going in life, we find that a lot of these things fall by the wayside. And then when you are 20s, 30s, and 40s, you have new sets of desires, which either get fulfilled or become irrelevant, or you're no longer interested in them. Then as you go past 60 and 70, you either have fulfilled most of your desires that are important to you, and a lot of desires are no longer relevant to you. So as you get older, your desire list becomes smaller and smaller, and probably it doesn't have to be very long to define what your desires are. When you have gone through life and reached a point where, if you're in your 70s, you already done what you had to do. You don't really have any. You just want to, maybe self-realization is one desire, progress in the spiritual path is another desire. And then other things are no longer important to you. You become more detached as you get older, and hopefully gives a better environment for frame of mind for you to progress spiritually. So coming back to the question, connecting fear with desire, I think it is the fear of not achieving the desire, the disappointment of not achieving the desire is the anxiety that causes that fear or stress related to that.
All right. Appreciate your input. Interesting though. You say that fear arises because of wanting to get the object of desire. All right. Hariji?
Just to add to what Mr. Vaidyanathan said, his desire is coming down as we grow older, but the way the vasanas are changing, it cannot be considered as a straight line coming down. It is more like a cyclical. It starts from every birth, it starts from zero, it keeps on going up and then coming. In the next Janma, again it is going. So the vasanas are not, or the desires are not coming to an end with one life. If that were the case, then there would not have been any rebirth. So it keeps on going. It is not coming like this. It is going like this. Again, it is going like this. It is a cycle. It is an accumulated vasana. Probably because my body is getting aged, the body doesn't have the strength to fulfill the existing or to fulfill the vasanas. So the body gives way, and then it goes to the next body, which will be able to fulfill the desire or has the energy to fulfill the desire. So the explanation given that it comes and the vasanas or the desire coming to an end, that to me, it doesn't sound to be, realistic. Yes, for me, I know that for me to achieve a 20 million or $200 million target at this age may be difficult. So I don't go for such type of high pressure job. But if I were 10 years or 15 years younger than me, then I would have, because my body will be able to take it up, that stress. So we are giving up because my body is not able to take it up. And slowly I am going, and the next Janma, then I will be coming up. This is what I feel. Yeah. So the vasana cannot get exhausted. And if my vasanas and desires are getting exhausted, means that I'm entering into the phase of Jivan Mukta.
Yes,
do
Hariji.
I sound?
No, you sound clearly, and you sound with great clarity also. Not that there is any confusion in what you're saying. In fact, you're very right. I didn't want to clarify, but glad you brought up that point. It's a continuous cycle. A very famous verse which says, "Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam." So this cycle goes on, and in fact in Bhajagovindam also it says there's something called as kama vicharaha and kama vikaraha. Kama vicharaha is the mind thinking and entertaining desires. Kama, vikaraha is inability to enjoy or satisfy your desires. So you're not able to satisfy because your body is ailing. Your body doesn't have the capacity, but has the mind matured and dropped off those desires because of the futility of it? That is measured with spiritual evolution. Vaidyanathanji, as you said, if one has really matured and the desires have dropped off because of your spiritual maturity,
then we give
then it is a very highly evolved state because you have head-on dealt with your vasanas with wisdom. Otherwise, it can't be taken as a physical age, as a state of spiritual maturity. They are not, they can't be, can't correlate it that way.
We are trying to compromise there. Okay, I know I won't be able to become an owner of a company. I'm 70, 80, 90. Okay, I just compromise.
Correct. Yeah. Yes. Perfect, Hariji.
Yeah.
Hariji, you wanted to add something? Please go ahead, sir.
No, Guruji, actually you've said it all. Hariji has also said it all. But I was still stuck on the word cold-stricken, and which you had mentioned. And it's extremely interesting. When you look at the dictionary meaning of cold-stricken, it says two things. It says something at a physical level and something at a mental level. At the physical level, it says affected or overwhelmed as if by disease, misfortune, sorrow, etc., and made incapable, and unfit. So this is what I think Vaidyanathanji referred to as suspended animation, where you're frozen into inaction.
Yeah.
At the mental level, it says it is guilt-stricken or conscience-stricken. So, which is very, very interesting, because then you are talking exactly what you have said in the later clarifications. At the mental level, you're talking of the word of the concept of the conscience, and you're talking of guilt and not doing with. So, that simple word cold-stricken actually is into, and this is very interesting that when you get cold-stricken as I did all this thing because I have heard this word cold-stricken in crossword puzzles, where it refers to, depending on the context, you can either write the answer for that as guilt, or you can write Rumi. Rumi is being frozen and without inaction. So, it has both the sides. And sometimes in the very interesting, again, in the crossword clues, they say Shakespeare says, smiling at sorrow, smiling at sorrow. That is what is conscience stricken, or that is what is
Guilt-stricken.
Is this word of
cold-stricken. That's an interesting insight. I didn't knew that cold-stricken is conscience-stricken or guilt-stricken, which is in a way the terms are new, but it's rightly said, because when a snake is physically dead, but the life and the spirit in it is still alive. It's not that it is dead. It's not declared dead. It is still alive. So similarly, when we are in that cold-stricken state, which is a state when, what is a cold-stricken state we compare to? Philosophically, what did we compare it to?
Samadhi.
Ayyo, cold house, sir. Anda tappu soladingo. Cold-stricken state is not samadhi. Samadhi is literally death. It is the death of the ego. It is the death of the aham bhava. But cold-stricken is a state of
inaction.
No. What did we compare it to in the philosophical discussion? What did we compare it to? What state did we compare it to?
Fear.
No, it's not fear. What did we compare it to? Tinkima, What did we compare it to? Any idea?
Hari Om Guruji,
Yes,
was
ma'am.
it a kama vikara because it's like the body is frozen or inactive because of the cold, and compared
No.
to what happens in old age,
No.
that the spirit is willing but the flesh is weak, so to speak. I think that's
you are stretching the example to beyond a point.
what I
No,
mean
no,
is
no.
that you just said the spirit is still alive. Okay, they still, a person may want to, but they can't walk, or the body is inactive because of old age or
No.
weakness of the body. No.
नहीं आप तो पूरा example को पूरा you're taking it a different tangent. नहीं, not at all. Vasantama, what is the connection of the cold-stricken? We said
the latent desires, the dormant desires.
but it is apparently dead but still alive. And what was the context we spoke about? When we initially spoke, we didn't mention this, but can you draw a connection to what we spoke earlier? A powerful example, and initially, just when we started the class, I spoke of it. Smashana Vairagyam. Cold-stricken state is a state of Smashana Vairagyam. You apparently have no value for the world, but inside it is very much alive. It's a matter of time, you find a different environment, the desires start hissing and stinging. But in that environment, it is dead. Isn't it? It's a false state. Cold-stricken is a false state. It's a conscience-stricken state, or the guilt-stricken, as Harishi put it. It's not the real state, because everything comes to life very soon. The reality is not that cold-stricken state, isn't it, Ma? So I don't know whether it's a beautiful connection we are drawing.
Smashana Vairagya is also for some time only. Again, everything comes.
Correct. Is exactly the state of cold-stricken, Ilya. But when I said that, I didn't talk of cold-stricken then. But now, having said, I'm just connecting whether you're able to draw these dots. I'm telling you, it's a fascinating concept. It's indeed a very deep concept for you all to ponder and just unearth the amount of technical or philosophical knowledge conveyed in that. Don't look at it superficially. You got to really look at it and then come to a very sound conclusion as to, am I in a false state? Like, for example, a person who is in an ashram, in an environment where there is no stimuli of the world, it is also a state of cold-stricken. Remember, Padmini Amma has not forgotten. She reminds me of Vada Pav every now and then. Today also she reminded. So the Vada Pav is challenging me again. I am trying to cross over it and you are trying to present it as a challenge again. So they could be the latent vasana for Vada Pav. I would not cross Vada Pav not recognizing it. So that
if
will
you
not
are
happen.
thrown in an environment where you find for which you have a desire, then that will spring up.
If there is any residual, if at all, or if there is a latent but potent desire, it will prop up. But if it has completely conquered and it is no more there, chalta, no big deal. If it's there, you'll enjoy it. If it's not there, you just move on because you have dealt with it head on.
And Guruji, Harji was saying something about whatever desires are, which cannot be fulfilled in this Janma, that will be carried over, something like that, no? So I was thinking, what is the guarantee that you will be born a human being in the next Janma to carry over your desires? Will it
depends
happen?
on
It's a doubt. I don't know.
See, what the Shastras have told us is, or Shastras tell us is, a human birth is actually a very high state of evolution, a chain of births. So one would have gone through the many series of births to have reached that state of human birth, which is the highest evolution of all beings. So having put in that kind of effort to have come to this state of a human, it is very unlikely you would actually slip into an animalistic birth, technically speaking. But for all possible purposes, they say if you are so hell-bent on entertaining a particular vasana, for example, you are entertaining so strong sensual vasanas, strong destructive vasanas, or strong tamasic vasanas, lazy, all the time you are inactive, lazy, indolent, tamasic life. If one entertains those thoughts throughout your life, and everybody around you are only constantly cursing and criticizing you, and all your life, all the time you're sleeping, man, what sort of a lazy, morose, all your day you're stuck in your room, in the bed or in the couch, no activity, lifeless life. If one gets into that kind of mental attitude and lives a life, then what nature, and when you do die, you will be born perhaps like a hippopotamus or a frog or a crocodile. You know, tamasic life, no activity. So you have given a license, nature has given you a license to express your vasanas for tamas. So that janma, you will exhaust that vasana, and the next janma, you'll be born certainly as a human. So one janma, this has a detour, because you're not able to fulfill that powerful vasana. If you have a vasana to kill, next janma, you will be born as a wolf or a hyena or as a tiger. License to kill, where people will pay money to come and see you. You see that? Again, you'll come back to the chain of human. But practically speaking, a person who is reached this human state will not slip. But if you want, nature will give you an avenue to exhaust any particular vasana. So watch out what thoughts you're entertaining. You've got to be very, very careful. Nature only is very true to it. It only gives you an avenue to exhaust it. Okay. Yes, Hariji, something concerning?
Sorry. This cold stricken, can it be equated to the deep state, deep sleep state of consciousness? Because it is going into dormant, my existing vasanas, and so-called Anandamaya kosha, that I am blissful. See, and then again, I am coming back to the waking state.
See, this is a natural cycle. The process of deep sleep is a natural state. Cold stricken state is not a natural state. It's an unnatural experience you go through. That is why we compare it to Smashana Vairagya.
Okay, okay.
Now, deep sleep is something we sleep into every day.
Okay, okay,
you know?
Okay.
Some of us sleep into twice a day.
Okay.
It's official. Unofficially, maybe more, you know.
Yeah.
What, Harishji? Officially, 2 slots. Designated slots.
If the video is off.
If the video is off, that is all unofficial. Official is where you know you are off to sleep. You know? All right. Okay. Siddharamanji, you wanted to say something? Okay, right. So coming to the question, we said if a fear is a modification of a desire, perhaps fear of not being able to fulfill the desire itself. That's one way of looking at it. But fear or the insecurity usually is compared or clarified as an emotion which arises after you've got the desire fulfilled. When you've got something, there is a fear of losing it. You've got a job, you have a fear of the uncertain times, you have fear of losing your job. There's some kind of a strange thought comes. What happens if I lose my job? It's not that you're going to lose your job, but there's just that thought that comes and starts bothering you. You know? So there is this desire, grief, hatred, fear. There are other emotions which he doesn't mention, I'll not get into. Indeed, the scriptures declare Atman has no prana. There's no, what is prana here? Prana is not body. What is prana? Prana is this. No, doesn't have prana. Prana means there is no life, there is no breath. How is that possible? How is that Atman has no life na enna? ரொம்ப ஸ்ட்ரேஞ்சா இருக்கு இல்லையா? என்ன Siddharaman sir? Prana has no, so Atman has no life, no prana. What do you mean?
Atman is a witness, it's a sakshi. So just it's the self-illuminating.
It enables the life force, but it is not the life.
Ma, I'm trying to maintain a sakshi to him. Sakshi is not in the context of the answer. The question is, what's the question, Seduji?
Prana, Atman has got life or not?
Atman, he says aprana, is no life. To which, Vasantama, can you please tell Siddharamanji what's the answer?
Hey, when it is as life means it has desires, it has grief, it has sorrow and all.
Correct. It has death also, but it has no life, it has no birth, no change, no death. But it's difficult to conceive when you say Atman has no prana, no life. To which rightly answered.
It gives prana. When it meets with matter, then.
Siddharamanji, at least in the class, let us speak, no? Huh? Because there's a complaint that you don't never allow her to speak. No, just kidding. Yes, ma, can you please repeat what you said, ma?
Atma enables the life force. It is not the prana, but it enables. It is.
Atman. Yeah. Yes. Go ahead.
It is the karana for the prana.
Yeah. It is the. They say it's called as the karana sharira, isn't it? It is that which is responsible. It is the life-giving force. Life-giving force which has no life in it. That's the understanding of aprana. A life-giving force, yet it is lifeless. That is the definition of Atman. Aprana means. It gives life to the body, but it has no life in it. It's like electricity gives light to the bulb, but there's no light in electricity. Electricity gives refrigerant in the refrigerator, but electricity has no refrigeration. It doesn't have any coolness in it. Isn't it? So the attribute of refrigeration is of the refrigerator, not electricity. So the attribute of birth and death is of the body, not the Atman. So Atman doesn't die. In that sense, he's saying Atman is beyond the terrestrial world. It is beyond the body. It is beyond the senses. It is beyond the pranas. It is beyond the mind. And he says it is Shubhra, it is pure. When something which is pure means it is no dirt. No dirt means, Annapurnama, what does no dirt mean?
No,
Huh?
no impurities.
Ama, correct.
No impurities.
No impurities na enna.
Like all maladies of a human life are like desires, bad gunas.
Desires only solliyachu. Gunas also belong to the mind. Ilya. We only said desires belong to the mind. Emotions belong to the mind. He says no mind. Previous verse he said no body, no mind. Now he also said no prana. Now he says it is pure. What does it mean?
It can't be affected by any of the worldly terrestrial aspects. It belongs to the subtle and transcendental, so it cannot be affected by anything worldly.
No, in fact, the right answer, when he says it's pure, in the Shastras, whenever said it's pure, no dirt, refers to vasanas. Because spiritually speaking, spiritual dirt or mala is the vasanas. So when they say which is pure, no mala, which is no vasanas, it is beyond the causal body. So in effect, he's saying Atman has got nothing to do with the gross body, with the subtle body, or the causal body. It is beyond all the three. It has got nothing to do with it. So therefore, you have to negate and says, I am not that. Yes, ma. So it's just a terminology you have to be aware of. Okay, right. And then end of it, he says, they have said so. It's not my saying. This is the commandment of the Shastras. This is how Shruti Shasana, these are the scriptures have laid it out. So he is following the principle of tradition, the Guru Shishya Parampara. Okay, let's move on. We will not be able to do justice to the 34th verse, but we'll get on with it, and I will continue the various pointers given when we come back, but we'll get into it.